Welcome to the Arka Talks podcast, where men speak honestly and authentically about their lives, exploring purpose, brotherhood, strength, and healing. My name's Ben Goresky, and I'm your host for this episode. Today, my guest is Joel Crneck, a senior leader in the organization, captain of a Ronin squad named Raccoon. It's an online squad. Also, one of my mentees, my lieutenant in my original in one of my original squads that I ran called Tiger Squad. We're both wearing our Tiger Squad shirts today, and longtime member of the Brotherhood. I think you've been in 7 or 8 years at this point. 8 years. Yeah, man, this is a special episode for me. You and I have sat in circle for hundreds of hours. I've watched you change so much in the last 8 years, and we've got some great stories. You've got some great stories, and I'm just excited to share those and just share who you are with our community and beyond. And this episode serves as an introduction. I think you'll make a great host for this show. So one day you're going to be sitting in my seat, interviewing some other guys. But every time somebody comes on the show, we want to do like a little introduction of who they are and what makes them tick and what was their men's work journey, so that people know who they are, hosts included. So that's what I want to do, at least to start this episode, is to dig into your journey, what brought you to men's work, what were some of the turning points there, and share some stories along the way. So why don't we start with your childhood and some of the major factors, major turning points in your life that brought you to adulthood, like what sticks out, especially in the context of men's work, relationship to father, brother, that kind of thing. And just let's go through it.
Sure, yeah. I was actually born in Surrey, and my mom was quite young. She was 18 when she had my brother, 20 when she had me. And I can't even imagine having a kid at that age. Not even knowing who I am yet and having a little kid come in the world. And so that relationship did not last. My father was going through a really hard time. And so she ended up moving back to Campbell River with her family, which is where they're all from. And so she was a single mom, raising my brother and I and working 2 jobs. And so she would bring us with her to her jobs. I remember she worked at a bakery in the morning, and so she would bring us there like still sleeping. And then in the evening, she would be cleaning the church. She was a janitor in the evening. And so we would have this gap in the middle where we'd be at school. I think she had another job she was doing in the afternoon. So she just would haul us around with her anytime we were there. And I was a handful. My brother seemed to be like a little more reclusive, but I was always the guy that was like the kid that was like in there jumping on things. She would find me eating scoops of the sugar just out of the bag at the bakery, this kind of stuff. And I remember at one point she had a leash for me, not like a dog leash, but like this Velcro thing. You just kind of slap, it's like a shirt, and you just slap the Velcro on the back. And I remember I had this tactic of getting it off. I would lie down on the ground and just spin in circles really fast. She had to get that for me because I would like run away into the store and hide in the clothing racks. And she would think, there was one time she told me about this. I don't actually remember this at all, but we were in this thrift store in Campbell River, and I ran away and hid in this. I thought it would be so funny. And I hid in this clothing rack, and they ended up calling the cops, and they thought I got abducted, and she's bawling at the front of the store. And meanwhile, I'm in there peeing in my pants and just really trying to stay in there. And so
just
it was
really committed to the prank.
Committed. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's that moment that she decided to get the little leash thing so I don't run away in public.
It's a thing. Leashes for kids is a thing. There's just, sometimes you're at a certain level and it just makes sense for you to have a leash.
Yeah. And I was really energized. I needed that thing. And so, yeah, growing up, I always had a lot of energy, and I was always fed a lot of sugar. And then so they were wondering, this kid, he's got ADHD or something. And so I ended up on basically every single ADHD drug over the course of my childhood.
When did that start?
That started at like 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah, like getting kicked out of Cedar Elementary School for throwing rocks at the girls. And then wiggling in the circle was the first time I ever got kicked out of class. My mom had the note, kicked out of class for wiggling in the circle, sent home. And I guess it was probably more than wiggling if they're kicking me out for it.
You weren't allowed to wiggle.
Yeah, but I was like, I was a wiggler, I was full on. So that energy really took me to, I don't know, the conflictual place in my mom's relationships with men, where I would be just nonstop with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ended up with my stepdad, and God bless his soul, had to try and come into my brother and I from this broken home, and super energetic kid. And he's young too. He doesn't know himself yet either. And so we got off on the wrong foot. He's had this chair he would always sit in when he got home from work. He'd sit in this chair, and there's a bookshelf right behind it. And I crawled up on the bookshelf. I think it's like the 2nd or 3rd week. I don't know times from that age. And I crawled up on the bookshelf and I peed on his head. And that was our kind of like introductory conflict. And then from there, they just ramped.
Yeah.
They would just ramp up. But yeah, that's like, hey, how's it going? Here's the piss on your head.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, interestingly challenging beginning to your life. Mom was overworked, underslept, just stretched to the max. She's bringing you guys to work. One would assume that in that state, she didn't have a lot of emotion, empathy, like real ability to drop in and connect, to give her kids. No father present in the first little while. And then, this secondary father comes along. How old are you at that age?
6. They get married around 6.5, 7. They got married pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. So you spend like a good chunk of these like major attachment years early on without a father figure and with a mother figure who's just really, really stretched. And you're the second kid, which, parents, the first kid kind of gets, a lot of times they get the most from their parents because they have the most to give. They're not so exhausted. But the second kid, you're more energetic and she has less to give. So I can imagine how hard that time was for her and how hard it was for you, because you had needs that needed to be met. You had an appetite for activity and probably just a strong appetite for connection that perhaps wasn't being met. What was your relationship like with your brother?
He was like, I would say, my superhero. There's a picture of us when we were little. Maybe I can send it and it can be brought up here or something like that. Yeah. But we're both wearing these capes, these towel capes, and I'm just looking at him like he's a superhero. I'm going to cry talking about this. It's so, like, yeah, I love that guy. And we don't talk much now. We just recently started texting back and forth. But yeah, he was like my superhero. He was like my rock. I would sleep in his room, all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
Clearly the middle part of your life with him has been challenging.
A little more tumultuous, yeah.
Just started texting again. Yeah. So many through lines between your story and mine. Different growing up in ways, like I didn't have a single mother, but difficult relationship with my brother. I had an older brother. I was the youngest. And that's come up in our relationship, you and I, our brother shit together. Mm-hmm. We can get into that. And so tough start with stepdad. You pissed on his head, and I'm sure that didn't go over very well. And there's also this thing that I have seen like over the last 20 years talking to lots of people about their childhoods, which is that step-parent relationship tends to be more challenged than a regular parent relationship because of the context that they're coming in with. Is like, in the background, there's this, this is the story that I make about it. They're coming in being like, this isn't my kid. And so there's some resistance there already, and to the kid as well. It's like, you're not actually my dad, or you're not actually my mom for step parent, and that's kind of the undertone of the thing. And we need a certain amount of things to overcome that and like really establish a very good relationship. And that requires capacity, from the child and from the parent, resiliency, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times for a number of different reasons, that's not there. And so it can be pretty rough. So yeah, how does your relationship evolve with your stepdad? How does he become a figure in your mind? And as well, would love to hear about how your relationship with your mom evolves as you like grow from like, let's say 6 to 16.
Yeah, so that's like the core wound is with my stepdad. This belief that I'm really not good enough came from the conflicts with him. This sort of I would say self-loathing, self-hate, because like if my dad doesn't accept me, my stepdad in this case, then that's the representation of masculinity in my life. And so I walked around for my whole life thinking men don't care about me, they really don't care. And not realizing that he's going through his own thing. And that's kind of where the biggest growth came from in the Brotherhood for me, was in forgiving my stepdad. Mm-hmm. And so when I bring him up, I really get to this place where I can start feeling some joy in the relationship that him and I have now, which is more like a friends. Mm-hmm. Because for a long time, man, I had him as the villain of my story.
Right.
Like he was this guy who is he's the epitome of evil. And I came at him every single way I could, physically, emotionally. And in my 20s, I was trying to figure out, I had no therapy or anything like that. I was trying to figure out how to heal this thing. I didn't know I was trying to do that, but I would write him letters like, fuck you. And here's all the ways I hate you and why, not realizing that when he came into my life, he took care of my mom. He paid all the bills. Everything was taken care of. Mm-hmm. And that was how he gave. He didn't give. He had his weaknesses and stuff. That is not to say that, how he acted was completely okay. But I never got to acknowledge the ways in which he took care of my family, my mom and me. Mm-hmm. And it was in 2020, it was during COVID. I was on a date with this woman on Zoom, and she asked me what my relationship is like with my parents, almost like an interview question. And I had answered that question through dad shares and Brotherhood lots of times. And I would talk about, how shitty my stepdad is. And it didn't come up, this hate, it didn't come up this time. And I was a little shocked at the moment. And I was like feeling this kind of love and gratitude for him. And I started crying on the call with her. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, there's some forgiveness has happened here, or something has happened here. And so I called my dad right after that, my stepdad, and I just told him how much I appreciate how he showed up for my brother and I when we were kids. And he's a lumberjack. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And then it was that moment that it was kind of like a spark in our relationship. Mm-hmm. And since then we've been friends, we've been close, and we talk all the time on the phone. They're in Campbell River, so I don't see them a whole bunch, but
yeah, beautiful, man. So there's been this like really nice coming home healing with him as a result of the work that you were trying to do in your teens and your 20s, and then like really found some headway with the Brotherhood.
And that's what opened up my pathway, my capacity to be a leader in the Brotherhood, because I couldn't lead when I was still in this story. I couldn't lead or hold space for men if I'm still seeing them as this evil villain, if they're still representing a shard of my stepdad. And it comes up sometimes in patterns. A pattern comes around and I'll catch myself. But for the most part, that capacity came from forgiveness. That miracle came from forgiveness.
Yeah. And you can't forgive until you adequately go into the pain and like do the work there with other guys, using other guys as representations of your father to process it properly. So you said men don't care about me. You grew up with this feeling or this story inside, men don't care about me. What had your stepdad done that gave you that message? That what comes to mind now to illustrate men don't care about me?
The most vivid memory I have of that is we're driving back. We lived halfway between Campbell River and Sayward, so it's like a long drive from the town. And we were coming back from the movie theater. It's just me and him in his old truck. And we were he was yelling about something. He was mad about something. Maybe he wasn't yelling. I was just a kid. But I remember him saying, I fucking hate you to me. And that was the thing, just the one sentence was the thing that stuck in my head for my whole life. Mm-hmm. And believing that, okay, he fucking hates me. Mm-hmm. Why does he hate me? And then, of course, as a kid, trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out, okay, this grown man, he hates me for some reason. It's got to be something to do with me.
Yeah.
Something to do inside of me. And so somewhere inside of me, I thought that I wasn't worthy of love. Mm-hmm. And that showed up into some pretty severe depression and some pretty severe suicidal ideation at some points, and crippled me in a lot of ways in my life. And I held on to that story. I created that story over and over again to try and solve it. And I can see the ways, if I look back on my work in healing, I can see the ways in which I created that myself to try and fix it. I would go into relationships with men and I would set them up to fail. Mm-hmm. I would set them up to abandon me or to do something that triggers this feeling, not on purpose, but it just happened over and over again. And
I'm smiling because this is intense and vulnerable, and I love it. And we're going to go deeper if you're willing. But you're sitting in front of this portrait of a bunch of guys at this event that we have called the Wolverine, which that year you ran and organized the Wolverine with Chad, who's behind you there as well, wearing the black hat with the red emblem on it. And Steve Parr is this guy holding you up. And he came on the show just a little while ago and told the story about how he did the same thing, where he would test his relationship with other men. He would try to blow up the relationship with good, solid men in his life to see what would happen. There's this kind of curiosity about, because I think men represent the structures of the world. They represent the thing that holds it all together. And as young men, we want to test those structures. We want to find out how solid they are and if we can mess with them. And whether the world will hold us accountable and also still love us at the same time if we do something wrong. And we get ourselves into trouble because the world doesn't always respond in this way that is like the conscious masculine, which will protect people from your harm, protect the structures of the world and the established order from your craziness that you're doing, but also lovingly guide you into that order. Instead we'll get thrown in jail, we'll get beat up, we'll get rejected and told that we're not worthy or that we're hated, because people are emotional and not fully equipped. And we end up hurt and lost and wandering and searching for that thing that we didn't have words for, that we were looking for, which is this village, you could say, where we're young, we're kind of crazy. We test the structures of the village and the village comes in and says, hey, we're not going to throw you out of the village. And this is not okay. This is what we need from you. These are the consequences if you don't change. And you're still loved. And here's why. You know, we love you because of this, because of that. You know, you've probably heard of that tradition where like when a young man in one of these indigenous villages is acting out, everybody surrounds him and tells them all the reasons they love him, which is inspiring because it speaks to that part of like love amidst a person being a little bit chaotic, you know? And in this world that we're living in, this sort of detached world where we don't really have village, and there's the nuclear family, and everything's resting on your stepdad's shoulders. He's meant to handle all of you. It's too much. Then he breaks. He's not fully equipped. He grew up in a not equipped society. So yeah, a bit of a rant there, but yeah, just appreciating that aspect of you trying to test relationships with other men, and that early relationship with stepdad set that it really set a precedent for you in your mind about men and about your worthiness in their eyes. And the thing on top of all of this is that you're becoming a man. You're becoming one of them. You know, at some level, you know, in your psyche that like you are trying to get into that man club, but you've been rejected from it already as a young guy.
Yeah. And that's something well, you remember we were both in Tiger Squad. You were my first captain, first leader, first mentor. And I would come to the group and kind of test it in some ways, however that looked, usually with intensity. And I remember telling one guy to shut the fuck up. But for the most part, it was just like this intense passion. And I think you saw that in me. But the thing that held it together for me was that everybody came back every single week. I couldn't scare you guys away. And you would have that hard talk with me if you needed to, if I was overstepping the line. And that's what really showed me that there was love. I think that's what you're talking about with the structure, where it's like, I can act out and freak out in these groups. Like it's a safe space, in that it's not really a safe space. Like you're free to screw up there. Just to be willing to talk about it. And the guys are going to come back next week and we're going to debrief what happened, what came up for you. And that in itself is really healing. And that in itself is a lot of love.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be willing to self-reflect for sure. But I remember lots of times there's just a general theme in my mind. I don't have like a specific story sticking out right now, but you know, you're a guy who challenges the structures. You challenge other guys in the squad. You get fed up with this or fed up with that. And like, you'll bring some of that energy. And in Arka, what we do is we're like, what's going on with you, dude? Like we tend not to be like, if you're making it about somebody else or the captain, whatever, we'll be like, we'll forget all that. What's going on with you right now? This is really intense. You're bringing a really intense energy. What's underneath this? What's the trigger here? Have a look.
Yeah, like the emotion didn't match the situation kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And so then you'd have a look, and we just give you a little space, and then you get emotional. You'd be like, oh, what's this really about? And a lot of times, if we were like, who's it about? You'd be like, God, it's my stepdad.
Every time, dude.
Stepdad projection. He's in there speaking to me right now, like kind of chirping over my shoulder. So you'd soften, and then we'd be there for you, you know? And be like, oh yeah, it's that again. Like, that's okay. We're here with you, bro. And we move through that. And that's one of the beautiful things about this work is that like we're willing to do that with each other, because I think in the outside world, people just kind of like react to someone's behavior or someone's words, and they're like, hey, that's inappropriate, you know, spanking or rejection from the group, punishment, discipline. And it doesn't work that well, right? Punishment, discipline, like those words for me, I had that throughout my whole childhood. I was constantly getting disciplined. I would imagine you were as well, with that energy, you know, and medicated. I was medicated too. You got medicated at 6 or 7. That's wild. I ended up on those same meds at 10. And personally felt numb, like took away my appetite. I felt like it stole a part of me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really messes you up. I remember in grade 9 seeing some demons, like fully seeing demons in class. And so my mom brought me to the doctor and it's like, oh, it's the Dexedrine. Just does that sometimes. No problem. Like, wait. It just makes you hallucinate sometimes. That's just a natural thing that happens. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it keeps you up from sleeping and then the lack of sleep causes you to see things. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're really helping me. Thanks.
Yeah. But how are his grades?
Yeah. Still bad.
Like, yeah, sorry. We gave your kid amphetamines because it's the best thing that we can figure out to get him to sit still in class.
Yeah, seems so backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best thing my mom ever did for that was she put my brother and I outside and she would lock the door. We grew up in the wilderness and like come back, lunch will be ready in a half an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're just there in the forest with the dogs. That's ADHD treatment right there.
Where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, like just looking at you now, you're a fucking hunter, dude. Like you're meant to be out there with a spear and just like going and getting food and hunting. Like you have this like, you have this focus and this intensity that when you want something, like you're going to get it. And, just thinking about that kind of a energetic system, that this body and mind being locked in a classroom, having to just like learn math and English, and it just doesn't make sense. And so many guys who have already been on this show and will be on this show will relate to that sentiment. It just speaks to a little bit how our school system's it's just not built for boys.
Yeah. It's got its flaws for sure. Yeah.
So, moving into your teen years and your early 20s, like what comes downstream from your childhood?
So the conflicts with my stepdad came to a head when I was around 15. And I got kicked out of the house at that time just from the nonstop conflicts with him, just ramping up and up. And I ended up getting really into wrestling, like Olympic style wrestling. Mm-hmm. And that did ground my energy a little bit. I would say in a lot of ways, actually, it saved my life during school. But at home, it focused me a little bit more. I would be going after school and I would go to the evening club probably every night of the week. And so I'd be gone a lot more. That was good for my relationship with my stepdad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I started doing that more and getting really good at it, I started getting more confident with physical confrontation with my stepdad.
Challenging him.
And so that became more of a threat than when I'm a little kid just yelling, whatever. Now I'm starting to get some skills and some power. And that, scared my mom and scared my stepdad. And she kicked me out to go live at my dad's at first. And I ended up living with my friend on the reserve in Campbell River for a while there. And just kind of working at Subway, going to school and trying to make things happen. But
wrestling.
Same time. And making wrestling happen. Yeah. And so that is where I started getting this kind of chip on my shoulder about work. Like I have to be working all the time. That's where that kind of energy you were talking about comes from, where I need to be doing that. I need to be doing something. So I'd be working, I'd be doing wrestling, I'd be going to school, I'd be coming home and partying with my friend and getting all drunk and smoking weed and doing all that kind of stuff. And that happened my whole high school until I turned 18. I graduated 1 year late because I skipped school so much. And the only reason that I was still in school was because of wrestling, basically. I would have just dropped out, but the wrestling kept me going.
And were you still on the meds?
I was still on the meds, on and off, because I wasn't at home. So mom couldn't force me to take them. So I stopped. Yeah. But there were times where I would notice, like I got a test coming up or an exam, and I would take the meds. Yeah. It was like these big, thick Dexedrine, it was called. And they have they have these little circles, orange circles in them. And it's just yeah, no bueno.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting the way that you were learning to like run your system, which is like hot.
Yeah.
Because you already were. There was already this like strong, energetic output that wanted to go somewhere. And you were learning to meet that by just like filling your schedule and just like ramping it up. Wrestling, like just wrestling on its own is like you're maxing out your energy output. Most people, but you were pushing that by always working, going to school, and just like adding partying on top of that. But at some level, I would imagine that was self-medication for you, because this is often what people with ADD symptoms and like something that presents as ADD, what they learn to do to adapt. You know, you got to do something with all that energy. And so the way you stay out of trouble is just stay busy all the time. And you can still throw some partying in there, but like if you have some structures in place that hold you accountable, it works for the time being. And you can get carried away with that. That can be problematic. You can just turn that one knob until you burn out, which maybe we'll get to. But it becomes a short-term self-medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that pattern of maxing out my schedule ramped up. I moved out of Campbell River when I was 18 or 19. And I was wrestling in Port Alberni at North Island College. And I didn't know about student loans. So I thought I had to be working full time. And I thought I had to be going to school full time.
You didn't know about
wrestling full time. Well, I did. Yeah. I didn't think that was viable. And so I'm like juggling all of this stuff to pay for the tuition, to pay for the books. And it's like, it's entry level biology and stuff like that. I'm trying to go kinesiology at the time. And so I'm working full-time night shifts at 7-Eleven. And then I'm getting up and I'm doing the team run in the morning with the wrestling team. Yeah. So I'm not getting up, sorry. I'm going home to get my wrestling gear. And then I'm going to wrestling.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to school. Then I'm going to the afternoon wrestling. Then I'm going back to my second class. And then I'm going to do the evening wrestling. And then I'm going to go to work again. And that was it for like, I don't think I lasted that long, like 6 months doing that nonstop. Until
where's the sleep?
Nah. I was trained not to sleep with the Dexedrine, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. So this was in some way you were like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, this is just normal. And that is where I started getting really burnt. Like if this is life, then I don't want to be here anymore. And that came to a conclusion when I tried to hang myself in the house I was living in there in Port Alberni. And the landlord caught me. I can't actually remember that situation clearly. I just remember that the ladder was really loud. It's like a little step ladder and creaking, and I couldn't get up the fucking thing without it creaking its ass off, and it's really rickety.
Yeah.
And I got the noose tied and I'm going. I'm done. And this is like, I call that 10 out of 10, like Terminator mode.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no more emotion. There's no more like, oh, my life is so hard. Like, there's no more like cries for help. It's just, we're going now.
Yeah.
This is like, I know what I need to do. This is my destiny. Emotions aside, Terminator. Robot.
Same type of intensity that you have, that you direct to other things.
Yeah.
Once you set your mind to it.
Yeah. It turns on me.
It turns on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens? So he catches you. What does he hears something and he comes
I can't even remember how the conversation went. He came in the garage. It's like a shared laundry room. And that's the only place with the exposed joist that I could put anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he said. I just know that the next day my mom is coming to Port Alberni and she's helping me get my stuff. And I'm now going, it's a blur. It's all a blur at this point. I'm like half in and out of sleep. I don't know how to explain it, but I go to my uncle's house in Kelowna to live with him for a bit. He's a country singer and whatever. He offered to help. And so I went and I lived with him for a bit, and I hitchhiked back. I don't know. This is kind of like a scattered story at this point because everything kind of shoots off into different directions from there. Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
For end of 19, 20. I only lasted a semester doing that. So.
Yeah. No shit. I'm surprised you lasted 6 months.
Yeah.
Like the way you were pushing yourself, like it's just, it's just incredible. And it's incredible that you didn't die that day, Was that the only time you tried to kill yourself?
There was the one other time that you know about that I was kind of like in Terminator mode. There've been times where I've been in Terminator mode, but that was like the noose is on me.
Yeah.
It's on my neck.
Yeah.
And it's just like a matter of seconds before. So
I'm glad you told that story, and I'm glad you're willing to go there, because you know this, when we sit in circle with guys and we're like, hey, raise your hand if you've ever contemplated suicide, more than half the hands go up. Raise your hand if you've ever attempted suicide. There's a good percentage of guys in the room who raise their hands. Some guys multiple times. Raise your hand if you know a guy who committed suicide. Lots of hands go up. So this is a topic that's like, it's near and dear to a lot of us. Near and dear meaning like just important, weighs heavy, and at some level, I think we all know that we could get to this place that you're speaking to right now. And we've seen it happen around us, and it's scary. And the more we talk about it, I think the better off we are, So, we'll stick with this topic. We'll come back to this topic because I told a story on my episode when Matt interviewed me that I want to come back to with you, because you were in the story and I didn't name you. Before we get there, let's just wrap up your 20s. Or, you showed up at Arka, like, how old were you when you joined Tiger Squad?
26.
Yeah.
25, 26.
That next 6 years, what's it like for you as a theme?
The in between 20 and 26, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is work. I got a glimpse of going to film school for acting. And so I did that. That was like a 1-year intensive course. And then I needed to pay off. I figured out loans by this point, by the way, folks. Figured out loans. And so now I've got to pay the loan off. I think it was like $15,000 or something like that. And so I got a job with this company that builds landfills. And they build steel bolted tanks for containment on the rigs.
Yeah.
And that job took me all over Canada, but that job was also like 16 hours a day, every single day. And they're supposed to be 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, but you actually didn't have to take, there was no regulating thing. So if I wanted to work, I could just keep working. And I did. And I did that for almost 6 years straight. I think I took a couple stints off, a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, but that intensity followed me there. And I had a couple weeks of like 195, 200 hours for 2-week stint. And then burnt myself out again, which brought me to Vancouver because I wanted to be in one singular place, because this job took me all over the place. Like, we're in a new town once every couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a new place. It was really cool, but also like, I can't put roots down anywhere. I can't do anything. And so I started
disconnected.
I started getting antsy about that. The coolest thing it ever did was bring me up to the Arctic, where I rescued 2 dogs from this town called Kugluktuk. And these 2 dogs, I brought them back to the city. And I say in some ways, they also helped to save my life. Like, there's a lot of lifesavers in this story, but yeah, these dogs, like, I had to walk them, I had to be taking care of them and stuff like that. And so that was like one of the ways I could always stay grounded, was taking care of something else, especially animals. Animals was, if an animal was there and needed to be taken care of, my life does not matter. That animal comes first, and I could do that. And that was no exception for the dogs. And in your raccoon story, that was no exception for the raccoons
Yeah, we'll
either.
get to the raccoon story. Yeah, so there's this is interesting too, because like, particularly for the paternal masculine archetype that's in all of us men, that wants to be fed, that wants a mission, and that will keep us going much longer than our own desire to create something in the world sometimes, just this responsibility that we have to take care of something else is powerful. I've talked to so many guys where their big turning point where they really got their shit together in their life is when they had a kid. I wish all men would really get their shit together when they have a kid, but we would have a lot less of these these troubled childhoods that people go through. This is not how it goes. But for some guys, this is how it goes. They really, once they have that responsibility that's there, it can really hold them, and they can drop their addictions and really get it together. So yeah, you're lucky that these animals come into your life, But you also have this this sensitivity and like a tuned inness, I think, to nature, where like despite your pain, you were able to notice these dogs and care for them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not something that everybody has. So I do think that that's something unique about you, that has been like one of your gifts, right? Because,
for sure,
because these animals cross your path.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel protected by these animals in some way. Like, should we just get into the
Let's get into it. So you join, real quick, you join Tiger Squad. You're in a new phase of your life. Like, okay, this seems interesting. This is a structure. Mm-hmm. I need to get it together in some way in my life. I'm new here in Vancouver. I haven't had roots for a long time. I've like pushed myself too far. What was it about that? Like, I think the code spoke to you in the beginning.
Yeah.
And what drew you to the men's group? Why'd you join?
The main thing was the code. Phil had just put the code up. I think it was on the website at the time, or on his blog, one or the other. It was on his website, yeah. So I saw the code, and it just reminded me when I was a kid, I had written my own little code for myself. I can't remember exactly what the code was, but I was like, this is the code. This is awesome. And I memorized that thing before I even joined the group. I had this little mnemonic device from acting school. This like I would do movements with my body to memorize it. Yeah. And so I created this dance for the Brotherhood code, this Arka code dance. And I kept that, to myself for a long time, until in group one time we were doing this something I wouldn't want you to know about me. And we were all sitting in the circle, and I said, well, something I wouldn't want you to know about me is that I've created a dance for the code, and I do this dance in the shower. It's like a meditation.
Yeah.
So I do these movements in this dance. Yeah. I think even at the time I was playing The Last Samurai soundtrack, and there was some really corny moments there. And I was like, I wouldn't want you guys to know that about me. And someone in the group, was it you? Someone was like, show me.
You later taught us all that movement, which I thought that was cool.
Like
was
50
great.
Guys at a retreat all doing, make your word good. It was awesome.
Balance passion and compassion.
Yeah, and it wasn't that scary in the end. And people thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
A little nerdy, but
Yeah. Yeah, so you join Tiger Squad, and what impacts you in that first few months about our circle that hasn't been mentioned yet?
Well, it's definitely what I already mentioned, the showing up. Everybody shows up every single week, regardless of what happens, we're showing up. And that stability was really important, but also hearing everybody's father shares, hearing that everybody's got the same problems I have. And I came into the group, I couldn't even make eye contact with people. I couldn't even imagine, there's no way I could imagine that Joel being on a podcast. No way. And I would always be down into the ground looking with my eyes. And there's this exercise we do called Samurai Stare, where we just sit in front of a man and we just make eye contact. And there's no talking, you just breathe and be with whatever's coming up in your body. And this silent eye contact, my inner, I don't know, defense system is like, no, get out of here. There's thoughts like, this guy wants to fight me. This guy, there's something wrong with this guy. He's looking at me, he's judging me. And then of course all that is just me judging myself through this guy's eyes. And over time I get to see that, not right away, but that was very impactful. Being able to see my own story played out through other people's eyes. Yeah. People looking at me like, oh, this guy's judging my big forehead. This guy's judging my teeth. I had braces in my 20s. This guy thinks my teeth are ugly, whatever. And meanwhile, he's like, I'm uncomfortable with eye contact, or like his own story going on in there. And I'm like, this guy hates me.
Yeah.
And of course, being challenged on that, it just comes back again and again to this pattern, this core wound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how that's a very simple exercise, but man, is it ever triggering, particularly in the beginning for guys, because we don't make a lot of straight eye contact in this society, and we are mirrors for each other. So you look into another guy's eyes and you see men. You see the father, and you see yourself. You see your own inner critic, the judge. So you progress in our group, and eventually you express an interest in learning more and being lieutenant. Mm-hmm. Nick moves on, Greg moves on. Nick was my co-captain at the time, and Greg was the lieutenant. Nick goes to run a division, which you're now running. And Greg goes off to start his own group. And I'm the sole captain now of Tiger, and I need a new lieutenant. The lieutenant position is like, he's a helper for the captain. He steps in when the captain is sick or can't be there. He also helps enforce the container, make sure that the container is disciplined and held well. He backs up the captain if there's like some kind of a struggle. He'll bring the fire to a guy so that the captain isn't the only guy needing to like challenge the men. He'll show up ahead of time and help set up. He'll stay behind and take down, and he's on a path to learning to become a captain himself. So he'll meet with the captain ahead of time, or after the meeting, or both, to talk about what's the plans, what are we going to do with this guy? There's a challenge here with this man. What's our plans for today? What exercises are we going to do? And learning about the arc of a squad and like how to bring exercises and shares to like evolve the group forward, and also just deal with your own impediments to leadership, recognizing the ways in which you're still not ready to be a captain, and working on those things. Mm-hmm. Clearing the way. So you and James, I made you and James my lieutenants whenever that was, when Nick and Greg stepped away, and we start meeting every week, having some food before the meeting, talking about you guys and what's going on in your lives. You guys get a little more like energy and coaching from me along the way. And so now you're in this like responsibility pattern mm-hmm. in the squad, where it's an interesting in-between place, because you go from feeling like you can really just be loose and be yourself, I would say, in the squad, even though that's hard for men to just be loose and be themselves in a squad. You kind of like, you start to find that flow. But then you get into this lieutenant position, and there's a little bit of pressure on you to be a certain way. You're a leader in training. But still you're wrestling with all your shit still. Still really learning a lot. And so what was that like? What was it like to be a lieutenant?
It was like a shift in gears. I can't just come in and roast people no more. And I had a lot of backlogged roasting energy in there, and starting to realize, even as a lieutenant, that doesn't exactly land, especially from an authority position, just triggering people's authority wounds left, right, and center. That if I wanted to actually help somebody, I would need to slow down and be more aware of why it is that I'm saying this intense thing. Yeah. And is it actually coming from a place of support, or is this just coming from, stepdad? Is this just coming from some crazy pain from the past that is unrelated to that? And for the most part, even as a lieutenant, I think that was the case. I think that was like, I was just bringing as much fire as I could all the time, because I thought that's how you do things. Mm-hmm. And that is where my view started to shift around like, okay, I can't just be cutting people's heads off metaphorically all the time.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think there was that time you went to Mexico for 6 weeks, or was it months? I can't remember. It was a long time.
Yeah, I think I went for 3 months at one
3
point.
months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you left me and James in charge, and then James was having concussion stuff at the time, so I was just leading the group, and I kicked 5 or 6 guys out of the group in that first month. We had like 14 guys, and we were down to 8. And yeah, just a guy questioned the group, like, I don't know if I want to come. All right, stay home then. Like whatever. I didn't see the healing, I just saw the fire, right? I didn't try and calibrate myself. So I ended up booting a lot of guys out, and I got some good feedback from you around that, and learned a lot. I learned a lot from that. And
yeah, you learn a lot in that position, trying to be the leader, and learning where you need to change. Sometimes you need to bring more fire. There's a lot of guys who come into leadership and they're too soft, and they need to learn to like bring their junkyard dog to the table and defend the container. Bring the hammer down, or just like have the hard conversations with some guys. You had just a ton of fire, a ton of passion. You know, we have this code, balance passion with compassion, and you have a ton of passion. And the shadow side of passion is this kind of like, it's kind of like the shadow of the warrior. You know, the warrior is fire energy, and it has there's 2 shadows really to it. Is this masochistic thing where you're pointing the flamethrower at yourself, which you do really well.
Mm-hmm.
But also you can just turn it and point it at other people and blast them. And so you're blasting guys all over the place, and learning this lesson of like, you don't need to refine that tool. You've got, you know, just in terms of being able to blast, you've got that figured out. Learning how to calibrate that and use it only when necessary, and bring in the softer side, the listening, the being curious, the slowing down. That was the thing you needed to work on, and you were learning that.
And the real learning that it's like not necessary actually most of the time. You like, probably 90% of the time, it's not necessary to blast, to roast someone, you know, to give them a lot of fire and call them out. Like it really isn't. If the person's there and their intention is to do the work, it just unfolds naturally and kind of gently. The only time you really need to bring fire is if somebody asks for it, you know, in a way where they're like, they want to sit in the seat and they want like, hey guys, like bring me some fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ability to unleash that is super helpful. But yeah, for the most part, I have found anyway that it's actually not necessary for transformation and growth, or even just getting to know yourself.
Mm-hmm. But that ingredient that you have is like, it's actually very special in this time, in this society where there's a lot of softness, I would say, in men. And, you know, if you can learn the softness and match it with your ability to bring fire, you got a really special thing going on, right? Because people respect a man who's able to like bring it in that way, but they don't respect when it's the only thing he does, when it's the only tool that he's got in his toolbox. You know, you can see it, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah, opening up the tool shed and it's just swords. Like that's it. Like how are you gonna water the plants if you just got a sword? I guess I could balance the water on the sword and really get it in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you've learned a lot about those things over the years, and that's what's made you a great captain and elevated you in the Brotherhood. And it's great. Like we can talk about parenthood in a minute, but you have a kid now, you know, and so like, I'm grateful that I'm just happy for your kid that you did all that work before having him, you know, because there was a lot of that, the shadow of the father, as Connor calls it. Connor Beaton, him and I had a whole podcast about the shadow of the father and how every man sort of has that, right? The shadow of the stepfather was coming through for you in those early days in Arka, in the lieutenant times, and probably still sometimes today, you know, like it's always kind of there in some way, but learning to face that shadow through your actions, through your mind, and one step at a time together. So, okay, let's get into the raccoon story. This is perfect timing. So you're a lieutenant, and you just take us through it. What was happening for you that day in that meeting, and we'll go through it together.
Yeah. So I think the main thing that I want you to know is that this suicidal ideation pattern would happen in a cycle. Like it would just be like a circle. I would end up like 7 out of 10. I think also I was on antidepressants at the time, which didn't make a difference in that case. I'm not saying they don't make a difference. They help a lot of people. And for me in that specific case, it didn't really make a difference. And so I'm in this intense part of the pattern, which is really hating myself. One of my dogs couldn't handle the city. He got adopted. The other one, my sister took, was getting all sorts of gut issues, and with work and all of the stuff I had going, I didn't have time for it. Just broke up with my girlfriend at the time, or we were in the middle of whatever. We broke up like 100 times in that time, and I started getting that same familiar feeling, like, okay, if this is life, that's it. And so I entered Terminator mode. I think it was halfway through the group. I just started zoning out. I was like out. And there were a couple guys who asked me what was going on, and the group ended, and that's it. I bolted out of there.
Yeah.
And I knew the problem was I had the noose tied in the truck, and I was already in Terminator mode on and off for a while. And I knew where I was going to do it. I was on this bridge on the way home, and I was going to do it. And it was that big rainstorm. There was like this 1 in 100-year rainstorm. You couldn't see 10 feet in front of your face. And I'm driving down the road, and this raccoon comes out of the rain, just out of the fog. And it's hurt, and it's really hurt. And so I stop and I pull over, and the raccoon, it needs to die. And so I grab a fitting out of the back of my truck. I was doing some environmental work at the time. So I had a bunch of water fittings, and I killed it, and I put it in the back of the truck, and I was like, okay, so now I just keep going. And I kept driving, and then almost like the Matrix, when he sees that cat, and then he sees another cat, the identical one in the identical room, this raccoon comes out on the road. And since everything looked the same in my mind, I was like, this is not, like, it almost jarred me out of it for a second. And at the same time, it was so surreal. I got out of the car, even the sound of the rain, like obviously it sounds the same, but like everything in that moment was the same.
Yeah. Glitch in the Matrix.
And I look at the raccoon, but it's less hurt this time. And I don't know what to do. So I call the wilderness people. They're not picking up. And so then I just call you and James, and I say, hey, there's this raccoon. You got to take care of this raccoon. I got something to do. I got to go. And so I remember you say, just come back to the space. Let's just talk about what's going on with you. You could sense something was off, definitely.
Yeah.
And I come back to the place, and there's the dead raccoon in the truck, and there's the raccoon. They're still alive, and it is mangled. I think you called your hunter friend. And,
Sam.
Yeah, Sam. You asked him what to do with this thing, and anyways, I don't want to get too graphic on the podcast here, but it also needed to go. It just wasn't as clear as the other one.
We went out and we were like, well, like, let's find out how messed up this thing is. And I think before we even went out to your truck, you came back inside the space that we were meeting, and you told me either before you arrived or right when you arrived that you were leaving to go kill yourself. And that was a surprise to me, but not that much of a surprise to me because just because I knew how you wrestled with things internally, and you had been kind of silent during that meeting, and you did bolt pretty early afterwards, which I thought was odd. A lot of times you stick around after meetings and like wrestle with guys. You'd wrestle with Damien or somebody else, Jesse. You guys would just be on the floor like rah, rah, rolling around after meetings. And this meeting, or you'd like help put the chairs away and stuff. This meeting, you just kind of bolted. And I was like, where'd Joel go? And I was hanging around with James after. And then I think I sent you a message. It was like, where'd you go? and then you called me. So you come back and you tell us you're on your way to kill yourself. And we sat with you and cried a little bit and just like held space, you know? And then we had a mission, something to do in front of us. There's this tension outside in the pickup truck. And yeah, no answer from any animal control because it's like 10 p.m. And we're like, well, let's just go see how messed up this thing is. Like Joel's messed up himself. So we're going to go get a couple more eyes on this thing. So we open the back of your truck and this thing kind of like pushes its way out of your truck, growling at us with its two front paws. And it just sort of falls out on the ground. And basically, I think its back legs were working, but its front legs weren't, you know, like I think it had a broken neck. So it's just pushing itself around in the back alley behind this place. And we're like, oh, okay, we do need to just kill this thing because it's just going to suffer. And then it's like going and trying to crawl into like a garbage dump area that's like barricaded. But there's like a lock on the thing. And we're like, oh, he's going to go in there and suffer for a long time. And we need to like stop him and kill him. And it's pouring rain. Yeah. And so James goes upstairs to get a shovel. He's like, I got a shovel. We're like, okay, go get your shovel. And we're like, this guy's trying to crawl away and we're grabbing him by the tail and pulling him backwards so that he's not crawling into this space where we can't get him. And we find a pallet. And at one point we just kind of like, okay, we know what we need to do. And we just like killed him. Put him out of his misery. With this pallet, which took a few hits. It was really rough for city boys, at least for me. You know, you lived more out in the country at some points in your life. But I hadn't really had to kill anything before. No larger animal.
Yeah, and there's something that sticks with me around that where how bad it wanted to live. And its spinal cord was hanging out. So it's like, it still wanted to go. And in that moment of my own suicide, it kind of dawned a light on me a little bit like, oh, this thing wants to keep living regardless of its circumstances right now. And that gave me some energy in the moment. But this goes, like I wouldn't believe that story even happened if you didn't see it, to be completely honest with you. And I don't know if you remember the people walking with the umbrella a little bit later that asked if I was okay.
This lady came by.
Yeah, this lady. And
we were standing there hugging each other in the rain, crying.
Yeah, okay. So this is where the story gets a little wild. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack, rewind just a little bit here to when I was 20. I would go back to this rave on Cortez Island called the Carrington Bay Rave. And my friend had this acid. And this is like my first time ever doing hallucinogenics. And so he hands me this piece of paper, blotter paper, whatever it's called. And I just eat it. I didn't know that there was several hits on this paper.
Yeah.
And that spiraled me into such a trip that I started running off into the forest. And I thought Shiloh was running into the forest. He had vanished into this hair, just going. And so I was following traces of his hair to try and like, don't leave me here, Shiloh. I'm tripping balls. I've never done this before. Yeah. And I'm running through the forest. And I get to this camp after a while. It's starting to get dark outside. My legs are bleeding. I'm not wearing any shoes. Yeah. And so and you imagine running through like just thick, not a path, just forest.
Yeah.
And I'm getting scratched up and I get to this camp and there's this camp with 3 people at it. There's this really jacked dude and there's this really beautiful, voluptuous woman and there's this smart guy reading a book by the fire. And they all were so relaxed They asked me to sit down. The woman came over. She gave me some food, some water. She asked me how I'm feeling. She was really empathetic. And this Jack dude, he knew everything there was to know about my body and like how it works and like what I need to eat right now in order to calm my system down, how to breathe properly.
Yeah.
And this nerdy guy, he knew all of the where it comes from, the philosophy, this kind of stuff. And this woman encouraged me to dance. And so there I am in this camp, like dancing around and moving my body and eating this cucumber. And then I start getting this feeling in my head, like, are you real? And I don't ask it, because every time I go to ask it, I would start getting this like searing pain in my head. And so finally I worked up the courage to ask them if they're real. And in that moment, they all pop back into my head. And I wake up and Shiloh is there and I'm having a seizure. And I was having a 10, 12-second seizure, which is enough to really cause some damage.
Yeah.
And thinking back on this, like, then I ended up, the trip didn't stop there. I ended up, going into a lot of panic. But it's that moment that I feel that these three figures protected me in some way from that seizure. And I can't really put my finger on it, but I never saw them again until that night. When that woman walking, I recognized her. And if you didn't see her, I would have assumed I was hallucinating, because it was the same woman from the camp.
Wild.
So when she came over and she asked me, hey, are you doing okay? Are you okay? I immediately was flushed with this relaxing feeling, and the Terminator was gone in that moment. And then I could come back to you guys and just be like, that was fucking weird. And so there's this spiritual nature to all of this stuff that is happening at the same time with me. And through lines that are connecting. And it's when all of those things come together in my work that I really start showing up as a leader, and that I can really start showing up more focused in helping people to transform or helping people to heal or grow or whatever they're looking for.
Dude, what a wild story. Just got goosebumps a few times listening to that acid trip story and the connection to the moment with the raccoon. And there's just some kind of like unnameable spiritual significance to the whole situation. And I just appreciate you sharing that story and permitting us to release the episode of me talking about it the first time, and you coming on the show and like just digging into it.
There's something crazy about that though, isn't it? Like, there's some intelligence there that knew that there's one thing that could stop me, would be like a hurt animal. Yeah. And that's basically it. Like, I can't think of anything. And then, it was obviously too hurt. Another one. What are the chances of that? Yeah, the first one was too dead. But the second one required you to have to take a different action. You couldn't just like keep going on your path. Yeah. Wild. Do things like that, but maybe less intense, happen at other times in your life? Yeah, all the time. I would say when I'm awake, or like when I'm focusing, doing this self-remembering, that's the moments where I can kind of see it in the form of some synchronicity or something like that, or just this feeling of I'm where I need to be, following this inner guide. But for the most part, before that, it was kind of like that story of the guy walking on the cliffside at night. He falls off the cliff and he's hanging on all night, and his hands are getting cold and he's going to fall. This is like my 20s I'm describing right now. And he's hanging onto this cliff, and he doesn't know how far he's going to fall. And then the dawn comes, and as dawn comes, he realizes his feet are just a couple feet from the ground. And the whole night he's hanging on there, he could have just let go of that branch, and he would be fine. He could have slept right there on the ground. And that is kind of the revelation, from the growth of this work. All my 20s, I'm hanging on, nothing, and realizing that this vulnerability of letting go and trusting the help of the group and trusting your help and coming back and being gentle and slowing down. All of these things come together to kind of represent that ground. It's right there. It's right there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
When the light hits it, it's clear.
Yeah, there's like this faith that seems to have come out of it for you, that you are supported in this life. And, this story, men don't care about me. Like for a lot of us, God, the parental figures are kind of like a God figure. There's the great mother, there's the great father. Maybe they're both one. But men don't care about me is easily translatable in the deep part of you to God doesn't care about me. And when you're walking around with that story internally, it's pretty easy to just check out of life and go Terminator mode and be like, all right, you know what? I'm done with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point? And you've been given these little signs and sometimes big signs along the way that that's not true. And that you're here for something. You're here for a reason.
Yeah. And in order to be in that path, like in order to be an effective leader, you got to be able to see God, or at least like not see God, but to be able to believe that something exists outside of your own ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're never going to be able to hold space for somebody else if you don't have that, if you're not holding that in some form.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're going to be able to hold someone else's story. In some ways, maybe you could, but it would be blurry. It would be ingrained in your own story. But to start to see that, okay, there is something that exists outside of my own sphere of ego, that is what every leader needs, in my opinion. I think every politician should have some sort of out-of-body experience where they see some form of God.
Oh, yeah.
Really. Yeah. Especially these days.
Yeah, I feel like I could just sit and let that story settle for hours right now. Because there's just so many layers to it. But what I'm left with is just this, this very strong sense that we're not in control of our lives. And I also feel that, like, I have friends who have killed themselves. I have friends who've died accidentally. I assume you do as well. We've got guys in the Brotherhood who have died. And I'm left with the same sense that, like, I don't know why. I don't know why Cooper died and you're alive. I probably never will know, but there's a strange comfort in that. Just like accepting that is the reality.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, okay, I'm here right now. I must be here for a reason. And when I'm not, my reason is complete. And maybe that'll be over when I'm 30, I'm over 30 now, but like for some people it's over when they're 30, Riker died when he was 30. Good friend of ours in the Brotherhood. We don't know, but facing these things and looking into them directly helps us live better, and when we were in the Samurai Brotherhood, there was always this lesson that we were meant to embrace, which is facing your death. And we would meditate on that fairly often and make friends with it. And that helps us get more real with what's important in life. So eventually, after all of that, after the Raccoon incident, you continue as a lieutenant, and eventually you go off and start your own Arka squad, guerrilla.
Mm-hmm.
And, who's your co-captain?
My co-captain was Shiva at the time.
Yeah.
Got to get him on here at some point. He's not a captain anymore, but
get Shiva on
still.
Here. Yeah. And then you run a Ronin squad, and you ran Bull for a while, started Bull and ran that for a while. What have you learned sitting in the captain's chair, sitting in the kind of metaphorical position of your stepdad? But with the expectation that you're actually there to hold space for men's growth and healing.
Yeah, the biggest lesson for me was in trusting my intuition, trusting myself. And that comes from forgiving myself first, for forgiving myself for ever believing that I was unworthy of love, or forgiving myself for ever believing that these circumstances which happened when I was a kid are what I deserve in the deep core of my humanity, which allowed me to be more present with my intuition in the group. And so as I start unfolding and trusting that I am worthy of sitting in this chair, I'm worthy of sitting in this chair on the podcast, I'm worthy of sitting in the chair of leadership, that starts unfolding and allows me to become more of an effective leader, working in the moment with people's wounds. And so I would say that unfolded the most in my captain's chairs.
Getting out of your own way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Getting out of your own way. I also heard A Course in Miracles in what you were sharing, and I know you studied A Course in Miracles, which very much is about like, listen, we're all dreaming, and when we recognize the dream and forgive ourselves for dreaming it in the first place, we're free, in that moment. And it's a practice that's never over. But when we get out of our own way, then we can actually lead. But it takes a lot actually to get out of your own way. We all have a lot of ways that we're in our own way, and stuff that needs to be kind of carved away and pulled away so that the leader that's within you can emerge. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this kind of like inner knowing that arose in me around the time of starting Guerrilla Squad with Shiva, where I got in touch with this kind of knowing about where I am and what I'm doing. And the knowing brought me back into construction again, back into carpentry. And then I try to fight that. I try to fight like, no, I need to be a coach. I need to open up my coaching stuff. And there's a lot of resistance to that. But there's something, just slow down. There's something for me left to learn here in carpentry, in construction. I don't know what it is. I hear a lot of the time like, you should be starting your coaching. You're leading a division. You're leading these groups. You should be starting your own practice in some way, shape, or form. Yet I'm still drawn back to this. There's a lesson here that I'm missing, and I fight that all the time. I try to fight that all the time. And here I am. I'm here. And the more open and receptive I am to that, the more unfolds through my coaching practice naturally, as opposed to, I need to stop doing this and just focus on this. And the suffering comes from me wanting to force a different outcome of the teachings or whatever lesson is coming. And so when I get in touch with that thing, I am where I am.
Yeah, the suffering comes from the dissonance internally, like, oh, I'm not here and I should be there and I got to make something happen. Yeah, that resonates. And learning to get out of your own way. Right. And come back to faith. So there's totally like a kind of a spiritual through line here that is life-saving and is like, keeps you out of a mental health death spiral, which precedes the suicidal ideation when it happens, right? It's just this like constant internal fighting. And when you can like chill out the fighters in there, that's when ease comes. I just, a little reflection for you around the like construction or carpentry versus coaching thing. I feel like I have a similar energy system to you. And I think Lee Hettig, who's been on the show, also has a similar energy system to you. He was a fighter as well. He's a boxer. I think guys like us, we need both. we need to work with our minds and do the inner engineering, and we can do that with other people and share that with them and lead them in that way. But we also really need to be in our bodies. And if we spend too much time over here on the inner engineering side of things, we go cuckoo. We have to do stuff that heavily brings us back into embodied existence and the physical world, and building stuff. And that also works with the creative brain in a different way. Building stuff is just therapeutic for us. It is for me. And I know it is for Lee too. You just need stuff to build all the time. And so for me, what I do is, I work mostly online with guys coaching. I run Arka. I do the Arka stuff. I do my Evolving Man stuff. But I always leave time in my day either to work out or to go work on a project. I live more rurally now, so I have wood that always needs to be chopped. I have benches and chairs that need to be built. I have things that need to be fixed. And I like that. I like that there's just a continual list of things in my head that I got to fix. I got to kill rats over here that are trying to get into our house. And I'm just always solving problems water egress here and there. And I recognize now when I'm 41 that those aren't problems to be solved and then I'll be fine one day. They're actually those are part of my medicine, and in this life. It's have that busyness and it's good for me. So I see that in you as well. I think if you had a perfect life, in my mind, it would be, you'd be doing something like that. You'd be working on stuff, building stuff, being creative. You're a very creative person. I've heard your poetry. You spoke this spoken word at my wedding that was about me and Shalina.
Yeah, I wrote that for you guys. Amazing. Change makers. Yeah.
Amazing. You need those outlets for creativity.
Yeah.
And
where else, as far as lessons, am I going to, I can kind of guess what I need to learn on a construction site, that's one of the most hurting mental health places in North America right now, other than,
right.
Homelessness or vagrancy or something like that. The most hurting place has got to be somewhere on a construction site where guys are just fucking harden the fuck up and do it.
Yeah.
Shut up and do it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good place for you to bring your balanced way of being. Also, I thought all construction sites were like that, and that all the trades were just basically this the epitome of what we would call toxic masculine. But then when I came to Vancouver 12, 13 years ago, I went to work on these high-end homes where we were doing glass. I was the glass guy. Me and my team were doing glass railings and wine cellars and showers and stuff. And we were some of the last guys in. We were in with the cabinetry guys who were just finishing up, maybe the painters, and the guys who were running the job, the architect, but more so the general contractor who really had his shit together in his life a lot of the time. These guys who were building high-end homes are general contractors, or the builder. And I had this other experience of there is an upper echelon of guys here in this industry who do seem to really kind of have their stuff together, and they're emotionally mature, and they do good work and they're proud of it. And that was cool to see. That sort of changed my view of the construction world. Not that what you're saying isn't true.
There's the seedy underbelly everywhere, I guess. Yeah.
The seedy underbelly is actually 95% of it, I would say. But I got to see this this core that was or this sort of special sector, I would say, of men doing really good work, being proud of it, and kind of having their lives together. So maybe we could finish this episode with a few, almost like a lightning round of questions, stuff that we haven't covered, and perspectives that I'd like to get from you on some of the Arka exercises and sayings and things that we have here.
Sure, let's do it.
What does "I've got your back" mean to you?
I've got your back means the guy's going to show up next week regardless of how triggered he is. He's going to be there to listen to you. He's going to be there to hold space for you. And he's going to also be vulnerable and open up himself. So I've got your back in the sense of the work. That's what that is for me, this vulnerability and also this solidity of holding space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And I mean, that goes into other realms as well, where, you know, if I need something practically in my life, the guy's going to show up and stuff. But mostly when we're talking about the work, I'm thinking about that. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about transformation or anything like that.
Yeah, he's going to lean in when things get weird.
Yeah. And I can count on this guy to to care more about me than what I think. That's what really puts the icing on the cake there.
Mm. And like, I've got your back sometimes means like, hey, I've got you when you don't got you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. When you feel like you're not worthy or when you're not really showing up for you, I'm going to show up for you in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does make your word good mean to you?
Make your word good. First code. Make your word good. I mean, Phil wrote about this. Make your word good could just be a group in itself. Or he was talking know thyself, but make your word good is number one in the Brotherhood here. Mm-hmm. I'm fumbling a little bit, but make your word good. I don't know. It's the bread and butter. It's what holds the whole thing together. If you're not doing what you say and keeping solid to that, then everything just falls apart. And so I guess you could look at it like this. There's two sides to any growth or transformation work. There's the action and the insights. And the make your word good is taking the insights and making them into action. Mm. That's, yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you've got this knowledge that the pattern of my stepdad is causing havoc in my life in some way, shape, or form. And that's great if I just have the knowledge, but if I don't do something about it, if I don't actually actively go and make some change in my life, then the insight, I'm just a bird with one wing flipping in circles. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a difference. But until I go and actually have the conversation with my stepdad, or until I go and actually implement the changes based on the clarity I got from that insight, nothing is going to happen. You can read all the self-help books that you want. It's not going to make a lick of difference if you're not doing anything.
I love that, dude. Make your word good is about action, actually. You know, like it's not that abnormal for men these days to go to therapy or to be in some kind of inner work group or school, or just like be reading books and learning about himself, going deeper. But if you don't actually do something with that in your life and put it into action, what's the point? And you know, we have a strong focus on that in Arka as well. Like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Like, we'll hold space for your feelings and like, we'll go through a process with you and hear you out and do the therapeutic part of things. And then what are you going to do now differently? What action do you need to take? And,
and there's something sacred about saying that in front of a group of guys who are all also with the intention of some transformation. They all know your story, and you're standing in front of this group and you're saying you're going to commit to something or to do something. There is also something deeper that happens there. Even if you don't consciously see it, there's just something inside that switches when you say that in this kind of group.
Mm-hmm. When you stand up in front of the guys and claim something.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you know you're going to see them the next week. That's why this is so powerful. It's like, it's the same group of guys every week. Like, you can't hide. You know, if you say you're going to do something and then they check in with you and they're like, you haven't done it, then they don't really trust you. And that's a problem. And you know that.
Yeah.
Right? So it really has this this way of really helping you get your shit together in your life just by staying in the container and adhering to these codes. What does it mean to know thyself?
That means that you're actively doing the work. You're leaning in, and you lean in. Yeah, I don't know. You can't always know your whole interior space. It's like you're going into a dark mansion with a flashlight, and you're going in and you're going into different rooms, and you're going to find some skeletons, you're going to find some dusty closet or something like that. And eventually you got to clean that house up. And so leaning into the work and knowing thyself is about cleaning, or getting into that mansion and knowing it deeply, knowing, okay, I got to clean this there, I got to do this. This is what happens when I go to this floor. The floor creaks here, or this kind of stuff, and really getting to know your inner landscape.
Yeah. So just going back to stuff in this episode, just this piece around your stepdad and the wounds that you had with him. It's pretty hard to heal it unless you see it, unless you know it. And so uncovering that was really important.
Yeah. That thing was running in the background all sorts of ways.
Yeah. What's it like to be a dad now for you?
It's pretty crazy. When that little kid smiles at me, man, I could melt. And it brings me a lot of joy, and I don't want to mess it up, man. I really, above all, I don't want to mess up. And so it's all about how can I be the most aware in each moment? How can I be most in touch with what's going on with me in each moment, and trying not to, have that pattern just play itself out how it used to play, how it kind of cursed my family for so many generations. Not even just my stepdad's side, but like, I'm not the only one who had a tumultuous childhood in my family, that kept going and replaying itself and rebuilding itself. And how can I be the last time that happens?
Yeah. I want to acknowledge that I wanted to get into your father, and we never did, and we don't have time to do that. We talked about your stepdad a lot, but I wanted to ask you about your father, but we'll leave that for a later date. But, as far as you being a dad, it's just, for me, knowing you, it's perfect, because you had the dogs, you had these like animal messengers along the way that, the responsibility of caring for those things was like an anchor point for you.
Oh yeah. And by the way, having a kid is not like having dogs. Just it's not like that at all. All right.
Yeah. Right? You think it is when you're a dog owner.
Yeah. Oh, they're like my little babies. No. I mean, I'm a new dad. Maybe it gets to be more like a dog a little later on. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know either. My kid's 3.5, so I'm not there yet. I'm not at the dog phase.
Maybe when they got the leash on them,
Yeah. But, you're a guy who, as your captain early on, I was like, I don't know about Joel. There was always this wild card thing where I was like, I don't know if it's going to work out with Joel. I don't know if he's going to take his own life someday. I don't know if he's going to be ready to be a leader someday. I don't know if he can be a captain. You had that strong blowtorch. You had this, you had the stepfather projection strong, and just a really strong masochist in you as well. And I was like, I don't know about Joel. And as you've grown, I'm more and more at ease about that. But when I heard you were going to be a dad, I was like, good, very good, universe.
Well, I got to say, you went out on a limb trusting me too. You had this fiery guy in your squad who has this story of hating people and really just roasting people, and you trusted me, and that says something about you and being able to be flexible. And I think that's one of your biggest gifts, is being able to flow with whatever's happening in your groups at the time. And that is one of the biggest, that's where I got the start of that intuition stuff. That's where I got like, okay, I need to be more gentle with these guys. I can't just be chopping heads off. You taught me that. And I'll be forever grateful for that, because in my life, I use that on myself to be more gentle. Like, I don't need to chop my own head off right now. I can just slow down, and it's okay to not show up to this 7,000 hours of work and to just like take some time for myself instead. That came from you, man. And I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Despite the concerns, I just always saw your heart and your passion, how much you care about other people. You care so much about other people in certain moments where it's just flowing out of you so intensely. It's like you're fire hosing them and they're just overwhelmed. But when I'm an observer of that, I'm like, wow, this guy he's just loving so hard. It's coming out kind of like too much for this person right now. But he's just so passionate when he's in something. You've got such a strong lover connection, actually, a strong connection to your feeling center. And that is kind of at odds with the warrior. You know, you and I have talked about that a lot. Just like, and everybody has this. The lover is kind of like, doesn't meet the warrior very well. They're kind of like, they have opposing agendas. And you need the king to be in place to regulate who's running the show at different times, or like who he's employing at different times. But I always saw your heart and your passion, your love for the work that we were doing for the Brotherhood. And I trust that. And you need to trust that when you're raising leaders, because nobody's perfect, man. When you're trying to create a leader somewhere in an organization, you're never going to get a guy who you're like, oh, that guy's perfect. You know, like he's ready 100% now. There's always a leap of faith. And you want to give power to the guys who are connected to their heart and who are humble enough to acknowledge their faults and come back from blunders to resolve conflict, which you and I have done a number of times. You know, I don't think we have time to do this, but you and I have had a number of difficult conflicts, ego battles, and just like ramming into each other with our agendas, you know, when we sit down and talk about it, it ends up being just like kind of a brother wound. You know, I had a brother who was a bully, and I become your older brother and you become my older brother. These conflicts. And
funny how that works.
Just fight each other. Yeah. But we're able to sit down and like acknowledge that and, you know, see it come back to love with each other. And I saw you do that with me. I saw you do that with other people. And
come back to like, we're doing something important here. We're more important than this, you know?
Yes, 100%. That is the other thing that you're able to do that's so important is to see the higher calling beyond your own ego, beyond your own agenda for things, and come back to that. And that's the higher calling, you know, that's what keeps us in line, you know, on the conscious path versus just derailed, you know? So, good that you have a son.
Thank you.
And, I look forward to seeing how that changes you. You know, there's only a few times in a person's life where their brain really makes structural changes. And in a man is when he has a kid is one of them. You know, your amygdala expands, your feeling centers expand, your empathy centers expand, your testosterone actually goes down. Sorry, men, that's what happens. Because you've created the baby now. you don't have to like focus so hard on creating babies.
A little more relationally oriented.
Yeah. It just makes sense. And I think that's good for you. You know, it's going to keep balancing everything out and keep you on mission. Last question. How has being a dad changed you already?
I definitely more calm in a lot of spaces. And there's this training Phil runs called Conscious Relationship Training. And at the start, you do these introductions, and I always give these rousing speeches at the start. This is where, whatever.
Yeah.
And I did not feel that this round at all. I just felt this calm, relaxed, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Kind of energy happening, and that here to help kind of vibe, this more solid vibe. So I feel more solidity coming in, some more groundedness than this just like flaring inferno all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More relaxed in my body.
Yeah. It's a special thing to feel more at home and just like regulated.
Well, because it's more obvious what my mission is now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm raising this small being. It's not so obvious when I don't have something. You know, I got dogs, I got the career. No, there's like this focus, this motivation focus that's happening. And that in itself causes a lot of change and action and what I do kind of thing.
Good for that ADD brain, man.
Yeah.
It's like, single point of focus. This is my pinnacle, my most important thing. Something you can get up in the morning and go to sleep at night knowing is your thing, your purpose.
Yeah, 100% ties it all together. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that's kind of come through in this conversation that you want to mention or speak to, or a theme or anything before we wrap up?
I think the main thing is just, I want people to know that their story is important, and that what they have to say is it's not just some random bullshit that's happening to you in your life, that what is happening to you, regardless of its intensity, it doesn't have to be this intense childhood. Whatever's happening is important and should be looked at with some urgency, should be worked on with some form of urgency, where you can bring some fire to that thing, or you can bring some energy to that thing, because the world needs it right now. The world really needs it right now. It really needs people to wake up and start to look at themselves a little harder, a little clearer.
Yeah.
And that however small the thing seems to you, it's important. Your story is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Know thyself. That gives us power, right? Power to change. All right, Joel, this was great, man. It was really nice. You said some stuff today that I didn't know about you, and just it was great to recount some stories and dig into your past and talk about our relationship and your growth, your change. And I just really enjoyed myself, and I look forward to having you on the show more. We're going to do some roundtable discussions here. We're going to have you come on and be a host and interview other guys. And also want to thank you for your dedication and the things that you do in this organization in Arka. You really bring yourself 100% to everything that you do. And, you recently stepped up into this division commander role, which is one where you're supporting other captains in Vancouver to grow and grow their squads, but also grow their own leadership capacity. And that's not an easy job. It's not an easy job running a squad. A lot of the work we do is really just, it's not about money. It's about passion. And you bring a lot of that. You've given a lot of your passion to this organization. So thank you for that too.
Thanks for having me on, Ben. Yeah, it's been great.
All right, let's finish it off. 3, 2, 1, ho!